me see. Fuck yes. Okay. Hey, everybody. This is Romy. I am Romy. This is the real Romy. And I am jumping on with my friend Drew, who's already cracking up. I'm just going to set us straight for a professional interview. Drew and I have been friends for a very long time. I lived with him at one point. I made jewelry on his living room at one point. We don't know how to not roast each other, but we do share a lot of similar interests and lifestyle practices. So we're going to try and get through this interview and talk about the things both of us are passionate about without actually spending 45 minutes of your time while we roast one another. I will say this, Drew and I are both parents now. We both are coaching and helping people on things in life that we're passionate about. And so reconnecting and seeing what he's doing with fathers and his message, I wanted to get him on and ask him some questions. So, Drew, as seen on the Real L Word, welcome.
Well, good. I'm glad you brought me in like that, and I think you said you're gonna get straight or set things straight. So
Set things straight here.
you're gonna set things straight. So that'll be good. No, yeah, we have known each other for a long time. We did live with each other. Yeah, we've have a. It's good. It's good to see you now as a parent. To see you, flourishing as a mom and all the things you're doing has been inspiring. So it's thank you for having me.
No, thank you for being here. So I'm going to just jump right into these questions that I want to make sure we cover. So you've been sober as long as I've known you. You were actually somebody who was there for me when I got sober on television. I didn't have a lot of people to go to at that time that were sober. We clearly didn't have people around us that were sober. So that was what brought me to you years ago. Here I am today living my sober life. How long have you been sober?
I have in January 3rd was 20 years.
Wild.
That's crazy.
That's wild.
I needed to though. I mean, and a lot of the men that I work with, it's not it's not just alcohol. It's from just whatever. I believe that your purpose is a lot of guys that come to me. I just like to get a conversation going. So there's a lot of ambiguity around who I am, what I do, how I do. Is it sober? Is it this way to get sober? But it's really just me now that I look at it since I've been sober and have worked on, a lot of different issues that I dealt with and struggled with. A lot of it's just really um, looking at what you've suffered from, what you've ailed from your whole life, how you fixed it, and help someone else. Which the foundation, everything I have, the foundation is from sobriety, though, being of service and helping others get sober. Yes, but I deal with a lot of fathers with and dads and mostly men with just struggles that they're going through because again, everything that I say I know is not going to be it's repurposed. I'm not going to say anything ground level that I came up with. A lot of it I've heard. But like a lot of, and I think it's God in their chat, it's someone that just says a lot of men are suffering in silence. And they are
100%.
they're suffering in silence because the main reason is they believe as fathers, as men, they're just supposed to have it all together and it's supposed to all line up. She's happy, they're happy, work's happy, you're successful, like all these things. And I know women struggle with it too, because I've again coming just working in sobriety with women and the things and social media and the beauty and the youth, like all these things that are just constantly being thrown at us. Yeah, men are just feeling they're suffering in silence. And that's why probably I think it's I forgot the statistics. 103 men, kill themselves a day, like
I
a
was
gone. And those
I
are
was
fathers,
listening.
those are brothers, those are sons, it's horrible. It's horrific.
Chris, the guy that we listened to, what's his name? Chris Williams or whatever, his podcast, they were just doing an interview and they were talking about how it's so much harder for men, even outside of divorces, that actually women have more of their friends, that we have our groups. We don't lose our identity quite as much being married, but that like men tend to take on to just being there for the wife and her friends and her circle, and they actually lose their circle. So when things like divorce and all those things are happening, that we forget how lonely and isolated they are, and they're not speaking up and they're not talking about issues. And I was like fascinated by them bringing this topic up because we don't think about that.
And I
No,
think
no, no one's
a lot
checking in.
a lot of it's changing and it's good. And a lot of these guys, and you hear all these masculine, like there's a lot of, I mean, definitely a lot I have seen a lot in the last 18 months to 3 years, a lot more men being able to speak and talk and open up about other things. Like I said, for me, obviously when a man, if I'm working in sobriety, someone comes to me and they've lost it, they ruined it, they're strung out, they're drunk every night, like, okay, you can see that. But some of the other things that, that are hidden or not are hidden, but they're just not looking at or not thinking about is like the real meat and potatoes. And for me, I do have a purpose today, and that was given to me when I was sober, is to stay sober and help someone else. But just because I'm sober doesn't mean I walk on water. I'm spiritually fit. I'm the best husband that I need to be. My what I do in my my whole thing is called Dad of Dads. It's not called Husband of Husbands. It's not called Son of Sons. It's not called Aunt of Uncles of It's just I'm just
It's
trying to be
dads.
a good father, you know what I mean? And by in all those other areas, as a partner, as a husband, like all these things are just it's work. It's just straight up work, and it just depends on how much I want to put into it and how much I don't. And a lot of times I don't. Like what you were saying. Some of the hardest things for men that I come across is asking for help. Hey, I need help.
Hmm.
Admitting they don't get it. Hey, I
Hmm.
don't understand. And then the third thing too that I work on a lot, and which I need to work on, I still continuously work on, is hey, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. You know, I'm
That's a huge one. So it's dad of dads is what you call it, is dad of dads because it is for dads, which I love. And that's where, like I said, here we are as parents now. You and I have talked about this a little bit in terms of like our why. I always ask people, like, what is your why? Why are you doing this? Why is it important for you to do this? What to remind yourself, why am I doing this? So you staying sober, would you say being a father is part of your why for keeping you sober, or are they not a part of your why, they're part of your mission?
Um, that's I never heard it said like that's great. I think they're definitely part of my mission, only because I got sober when I didn't have kids, I didn't have a wife, I didn't, so
Hmm.
my why was different.
Hmm.
But definitely like this last piece I've been working on, and you've known me, I've tried every elimination diet there is, whether it was paleo, keto, eat right for your blood type. Like I tried all of it. So at about 5 years. So I've always done something, right? I've always been on
Yeah.
some type of elimination diet, which they don't work. And so I really started working around my relationship to food, only because I want to be there for my kids. So my why now is for my kids.
Hmm.
The foundation is or is found though is in my nutrition and my health, because I struggled so many years as the fat kid, the chubby kid, all these things. So I had a lot of shame and guilt and embarrassment and low confidence, self-confidence around that growing up. So that was before the drinking and using. And then when the drinking and using and drug, like all these other things kind of just masked all that pain. So I went to my doctor. I'm 53, I'll be 54 this year. And I went to my doctor's at like 48, and he's like he wanted to, I was pre-diabetic, I was he wanted to put me on these pills and stuff, and I just don't, me being sober, I'll obviously take something if I need it, or but I don't like
Hmm.
taking anything. And put me on blood thinner, just all this stuff. I'm like, what if I change my diet? He goes, you'd have to change your diet, you'd have to do all this. So I said, all right. So I think at the last like fad diet I tried, or not diet, but just eating regime, was like a plant-based diet, and it felt really good. And then I came across this guy that I really liked what he was saying and doing. And this is again was like I was 49, and I think my whole life I said I want to get abs. I want to have abs. For the vanity reason, right? I didn't
Hmm.
understand starting this journey how much it was going to help my mental health. I
Thank you for
had no
saying that.
idea.
Thank you for saying that, because I
I
don't
just
want people
wanted
just yeah, it's
I
such a
wanted
shift.
I wanted straight, like, but like anything in life that I've always I always search outside of myself instead of inside of myself. So once again, you can look at it different ways. But it was for vanity reasons, like straight up, and to be around for my kids. But I said, you know what? I could two birds with one stone. I'll get that six pack I've been saying since 12th, since 12th grade, 11th grade, whatever. And then obviously I'm not going to be that dad that is there, but he can't walk. He can't even lift his girls up. I could hold both of my girls. Like he can't run around and roll and do jitsu and stuff with my son. Like I don't want to be that dad. And I also don't want to be the dad that the other guys are looking at and saying, oh yeah, your dad's kind of, he's a fat dad. You know what I mean? Because I see that they see that. And I remember when I saw that too. And I was lucky that I was raised around my stepfather, who was always very healthy and strong and stuff, and had us, doing this and doing that. So my why, definitely, that kicked all this thing off, because after I did get the abs and I got, vascular and veins and all that, it was just, I had so much more clarity in my mind to start really looking at deeper unresolved issues that, or traumas that, like what they say, that I could see now. And so now a lot of it is just for my
Let me
mental
ask
health.
you really quick for anyone listening, when you went to the doctor and he told you all this, or she told you all this, whoever it was, and you decided to take it upon yourself to change your lifestyle and do all these healthy habits, which you know in the past what it's like to change your lifestyle with sobriety and see what happens when you get sober, right? Like you've seen the results of changing, what you're putting in your body. So when you did this, just for anyone listening, because I've been able to kind of watch it, did that really change your life and get you into a place like physically and mentally healthier, like not just taking the pills, but actually changing your entire way of eating and healthy ways? Did you get to the point where you could show up, which I know, but for people listening, to have that strength, that strong, active dad just by changing your diet?
Ask me in a simpler
So
question.
simpler question. When you went to the doctor and they said all this, like we said, you'd have to change this. A lot of doctors will come to you and tell you, you're going to have to do all this stuff, take these pills. We see it. You and I have like similar opinions about Ozempic and all this, right? I know you do the hard work. So for anyone watching, when you decided to do that change and look the way that you look now, yes, for vanity, how did it change all of your numbers and get you on a healthy path just by changing your diet and working out?
Well, it took me a while to really, I had to have a process, and I had to get disciplined around my relationship with food. It didn't, I wasn't looking at it again like that. It was like me just getting up and having a routine and doing, some simple non-negotiables. Then I really started applying that just to other parts of my life and around other, things, and listening and staying like all like the PMA type of stuff. I've always kind of been um on a positive trajectory because of sobriety, but I never really was, if I look at it, like I was still wasn't happy, because I still wasn't happy with, I just had a weird relationship with my body. I mean, that's the best way I could put it. And it wasn't until that the body piece started, I could start seeing transformation stuff, that I think that opened up or let in, the ability for, just other things, and for me to remain teachable, really, because, like, again, just for me, it comes down to a few simple things that I, not simple things, but just things that I do, and me keeping my word to myself, really, because I'd broken my word. I'm going to do it this time. This year, I'm going to do it. That's why, like, if you see my posts, it's like, we're going to be on the 29th Monday. I've had so many, I'll start Mondays. I'll start at the first of the year, even with, not with so much with the food, but just with the drinking and using, especially. And that's something that a lot of men, that you got to, I don't like to, even though I coach, I don't like to be considered I just like to be considered an example, if that makes sense. I want to be looked at as an example. So I keep doing all the things that I do, for, not for my clients, but just so other people can see in it, and it's attainable. You know what I mean? I'm Mexican, so I always thought I was going to have that burrito body that kind of just looked like a machaca. You know what I mean? Like a straight machaca burrito. No definition of this, but it was all vanity, but it was all for that. And then it was for the health part. I wanted to see my numbers get better in my blood and my sugar and stuff like that. Just because I didn't want to, go on, diabetes runs in my family. I've had people, anyway, just health stuff.
Yeah.
I hope that
I think what you
I'm
said
talking
though,
around in a circle, but does that make sense? I don't.
yeah, it does. I think what you're saying though too though is like when you're saying, doing like you're holding yourself accountable, right? You're holding yourself accountable. You're living by being an example. When you stop being that, it's really hard to teach and show up for people. At least I know through coaching and working with other people, I don't like to sit there and be talking about things that we can be doing that I know work and then not actively be doing that. So you do show up for yourself. You hold yourself accountable. I want to ask you this. This is a personal question off the questions, but I do a lot of coaching, and a lot of the people that I'm coaching, because this is not my specialty. I am sober, but I'm not in a place like you with my sobriety. I don't have the knowledge that you do to help somebody with it. But my biggest thing has been when people realize all the stuff, the relationship with their body, right? The relationship with their self, the way that they love themselves. There's so much there to be dealt with. that even when you remove the alcohol, the reason for numbing yourself out in the first place is because of all that other stuff.
Correct.
So when you were saying like once you're, yeah, you're sober, fine, but now you're taking on the body issue, you're continuing to grow, right? In the different areas of yourself that need to be healed, that we're all there. And at any point in our life, we can jump in and do that.
Right. Yeah. No, you can. But I think it definitely takes, so much of it is just discipline and you keeping your word to yourself. That's why, like a lot of things that I go through, it's four simple non-negotiables when you wake up. Because if I already wake up breaking my word to myself with a wake up time, with personifying gratitude, whether reading something, journaling, meditating, praying, and then getting a workout in. If I can't do some simple things like that and I start breaking my word to myself, there's no way I'm going to be that
No.
dad that they need. I'm going to be the husband that she needs. I just can't, because I'm already putting myself in a deficit. Listen, I wake up irritable, discontented, in fear, in all that. That's how I wake up, like that. And it's not like, I always thought like once I get sober at 10 years, it'll look like this. At 20 years, I'll be like, just so nothing's gonna bother me. And no, I'm human. I gave
Thank
up on
you.
being perfect around year 3 or 5 of sobriety, and I really had to start looking at things different, just having a different perception. One of
Yeah.
the main things in sobriety they say that you need is some type of spiritual experience and spiritual awakening. Later on in one of the textbooks that we use in an anonymous program that I'm in, it says that in the appendix of in spiritual awakening, it's really just a personality change significant enough for recovery. That's all it is. People think it's like, are waiting for like the burning bush, and that's going to happen in this. I, you literally just have enough. Maybe I had to string on a lot of different, because first time I had someone give me I had like a personality change, or I don't like to say personality change, but when I had like just a
Joe
different
Dispenza says breaking the habit of being you.
yeah, just a different perspective of looking
Mm-hmm.
at, like, someone asked me a question. It was the first detox. This was in 99. I didn't come and get sober and I stayed sober. I was in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. So this was in 99, and the counselor asked me, like, do you real how long have you been drinking or using? And I had to think about it. I'm like, I don't know, like, what do you mean? Like, I've kind of been doing it for a while. She goes, well, how long has it been? And other than going to jail, or other than like stopping for a week because I wanted to see if I can do it, it had been since like 15, 16 years that I constantly had a pill, had a drug, had a drink, had something in me just to knock the edge off, just to deal with, which I didn't even think I was dealing with. I just thought, this is fun. It's great. I'm having a good time. What's going on? What's going on? Until I'm, 20s, 30s,
Yeah.
and, sober in my early 30s. Sorry about that. So it's just having a different perspective. So it was enough of those different perspectives where she said that, then she said that, and then she said this, but I had to be around sober people. I couldn't do it saying, I want to be sober, I want to be sober, I want to stop smoking, I want to abs, and not do anything about it, because then it's just it's a fantasy, it's a dream. I didn't have a plan, a structured plan. That's why the organization that I'm in has structured
Structure.
plans, structured steps. So I've just applied that kind of to other areas of my life. I'm a big believer in, again, like again, this is nothing I came up with, but just watching what I allow absorb into my body. Through my mouth is the food, right? Because if I'm eating shitty food and I'm eating late and I'm eating horrible and sugars, my mind's gonna go just boom. If I'm watching and screen sucking endless things and negative things and fear things, and this is that, and he said that, and she said that, I'm gonna, it's if I'm hearing who I'm surrounding myself with, one of the big things is you're the sum total of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So I'm
Yes.
everything I let absorb into my body, I have to be hypersensitive with, because the people that paid for my drinking and using was my family. The people that pay for my um the people that pay for everything now is my family, and it's my
Yeah.
kids now. It's the
Yeah.
energy that I bring into my home. It's the energy that I give to my wife. It's me being passive aggressive. It's me being an asshole. Believe me, I'm still all these things. I'm not perfect just because I've been 20 years sober. That's nothing. that's like just I needed to do that just to start going to getting my head straight. So it's all these things that if I'm not doing these things and I still feel shitty, because I've tried other things. I mean, you've known me. They flew me around the world. I flew first. I had the watch. I had all these things. I had all the stuff, all the things that I thought I've been a box checker my whole life. Once this happens, I'll be happy. Once this happens, once I get her, once this happens, once this, a lot of it's happened for me and I still wasn't happy. Once I
Let
get
me
out,
let me
once I,
ask you let me ask you this because I don't want to jump past it and you brought it up and it's like a really important thing for me right now and you just like you said it. As far as like what you consume, who you're around, what you're listening to, all of this stuff. And we had mentioned this before we jumped onto the interview and I don't want to miss it. I'm a big believer in that as well. And I think now as parents, what we're consuming, what we're reading, what we're eating, what we're hearing, you're right. We bring that home, right? We bring all that home. It is no longer just about us anymore, right? We don't get to just sit there with all that negativity and fatness and unhealthiness and mental unhealthiness. We got kids looking at us, sucking up the same energy we're bringing home.
yeah,
So it's priority that what we're listening to, what we're reading, right? They say when you're in the Bible every day, you're more likely to walk that way because you're reading it. Those are the words you're eating. So that's a huge thing for me as a parent with the structure. I'm wondering if you'll tap on this because I know you work with men on this, and this has been big for me. In my sobriety, I have recently found that I also had a sex addiction, right? An addict, sex addiction, alcohol addiction. This has been new for me to wrap my head around the types of addictions. So I quit porn, I quit masturbation, I quit pretty much consuming myself with that type of obsessive thought. And I know a
mm.
lot of men are coming up and speaking on this more, and I've really been appreciating it. And I want you just to tap in because I know you help men with that as well. So when you bring in what you consume, can you speak a little bit more on that?
Yeah. So when you a lot of most of the men that I work with, when you get sober, that's like the most obvious thing. You're not even thinking about maybe these other things. But once you get sober, a lot of the men's fear, a lot of the masculine fear, it's pink or green. It's romance or finance. It's those two things where the fear in your control is, and from those two parts, all your character defects are come blaring and screaming out. Your negative character defects. What does that mean? So that means that, pink or green, romance or finance. It's the job, it's the this. If once I get this, once I make this, once I this, so it's the money, it's the relationship to money. And then the pink obviously being a female, obviously being the relationship, the sex, the sex, just the weird thing around that. And it's a majority of people have just the weird relationship with sex. So for the guys though, it's a lot of it. So you're not drinking or using, well, now you're gambling, now you're spending, now you're living out your means, now you're watching porn, now you get in the food thing. It's only a handful of other things you really have left. And you know what? I got to remember too, some people are okay with that. Like it's not I'm not like the moral standard or the moral pillar of how you should live your life, but all those other things, if it conscious congruent, if you're trying to live in a certain way, in a certain style, you got to be congruent in all these other areas. You should be congruent in all these other areas of your life. You can't keep screwing people or cheating on your wife or cheating on your girlfriend and expect to be living some type of
Yeah.
spiritual life and being a good father. You just can't. The universe won't let you. You'll
No.
only get away so long with it. And then there's a saying, and my wife taught me this too from one of her teachers. It's we never pay attention when God whispers. We have to unfortunately wait till he
Yeah.
screams. And
Yeah.
when he screams and yells is when my back's up against the wall once again, because because my way, me not having faith, and God and spirituality is a big part of me staying sober, and even with the food, with everything, I try to bring everything to God. But it's like because I just do the same thing with that I did in sobriety now with food, with a relation, with my relationship with her, with my kids, with patience. Like, and again, just because I speak on this stuff doesn't mean I'm perfect in it. You
No,
could
it doesn't mean anybody, but just saying that out
you
loud.
can ask my wife or my kids, and
Yeah,
whenever
no.
I'm so high and mighty on,
Yeah.
because I speak a lot for recovery and spirituality. It's like, no, don't ask me. Ask my wife how I am with my communication, and ask my kids how I am with my patience and my temperament, how I raise my voice, how I
Isn't
how
that
I
the real
was
test though, Drew? If our kids one day look back and speak on who we are, they're going to tell you who we are because they're living, breathing, eating it, right? We can put ourselves up on that pedestal and preach all day the knowledge that we're reading and consuming, right? But like the people that live with us, real fucking people
yeah, yeah,
who,
yeah. I mean,
who know.
and I don't think they're, again, with everything, whether it's the guys, it's always a Goggins, a Jocko, a Ryan
Yeah.
Holiday, all these guys. It's you can having all that knowledge and not applying it is worthless.
Yep.
Program talks about self-knowledge avails us nothing. So it doesn't, I don't necessarily mean that we have a lack of like uh knowledge about it because it's so much and, unless you really don't want to hear it, but we just have an application problem.
Yeah.
There's just
Yeah.
an application and an action problem and taking action and taking suggestion and getting a coach and getting in doing that. Like, yeah, I think that, but again, for me, working with men, a lot of them, I don't understand. I don't get it. I need help. I'm stuck. Like, those are the hardest things to talk about. So that's why, like, I try to be as much as an open book on my social media so they could
Same.
say, or like, they could, that, I mean,
They
that's
can
the whole thing.
relate.
It's for identification.
Yeah.
It's so people can identify with, oh
Yes.
my God, there's three things in sobriety that you read the stories or you go to, you go here and and you can apply this with anybody on now with the social media. Yes, I felt like that. Yes, that's happened to me. And yes, I think that that can work for me. It's not like some big thing that people think that they have to always like have this ready and that like me. Like if I wanted to do spin class, I need the shoes, I need the socks, I need the headband, I need the thing. And like you, I always like I need all this stuff before I can get started. I want to start.
No.
I want to be in the home office. I need a desk. I need a this. I've been doing
No.
this since I was a kid. When I started yoga, when I started pop physique, like I always had to have
Like
like,
decked out in the whole outfit.
yeah,
Now I can go.
I always had, yeah, now
Yeah,
I'm gonna,
now.
no, I'm not gonna get it. 3 weeks later, I can't even find, I don't even care about
Right.
any of that shit that I spent hours on getting the matching this, the matching that. Like it's just, they say half begun is half done. So a lot of on my social media and stuff, I just try to get to the point. I try to um, speak on, sobriety and fatherhood and what I've looked into now, like again, one of my coaches said that a good coach, a good mentor will never tell you what to see, but maybe suggest where to look. And so
Okay. Yes.
you do, I try to do that a lot, and it's called like time compression. Bedros and those guys talk about it. It's like I want to tell and express and tell these guys the last 20 years of my sobriety and the last 8 years of being a father and a husband, all this other stuff. It's like I want to time condense that to you so you don't have to go. What I'm getting at, Romy, is I didn't start like therapy until like after 12 years of maybe 10 years of sobriety. I started doing therapy. Then I started getting into childhood traumas. Then I started getting into my relationship to the mother, father, the
Mm-hmm.
masculine, the feminine, the David Datas, like all this stuff. And believe me, I say that just because I read it. I don't say it because I do it. I've done different workshops and stuff like that because that's one thing where, and I say it jokingly, but it's not a joke. It's like me having a true partnership, being truly intimate with my wife is hard because I don't like to speak up. I don't like to this. I would rather, when I know we have to have a talk or a conversation, I've told her this in therapy. It's like, I'd rather fight two guys for like 30 seconds, just full on, just fist fight them because then I know it's over, and then I
Yeah.
know I'll heal or do whatever, and I don't have to show up. But I have to show up. So so I try to get like people and to look at some of these situations and their relationship, and I'll ask them like, how was your relationship with your mother? How was it to your father? And then we just go deeper and deeper and deeper and try to make
Do
them.
you think that that question right there, because as I've shared with you, I'm deeply exploring my relationship with my mother and father. It probably was the core to everything I'm figuring out of my addictive personality, my alcohol abuse, my sex abuse. Here I am at 40 and I go through therapy, right? And I'm doing all this work and I'm finding out that it has so much to do with my relationship with my father, my
Well,
relationship with my mother.
think about it. It was explained to me that's our first relationships we ever knew. So why would
Yes,
it would make sense why we end up marrying our mothers, our fathers,
yes.
or why we get away, why you hear all these things. I don't want to end up like my father. I don't want to end up like my mother. Well, because those are the only two things we knew or we didn't know.
Well,
in
but
my
even the ones we didn't know, the fathers we didn't know, the mothers we didn't know, right? Like we even attach ourselves though in some traumatic way to either them not being there or them being there.
overbearing, like you met my mom before. I love her. She's a saint, but it's like single mom, this and so it just around everything, right? How everything I can see connects now, how nutrition in the 70s,
Mhm.
latchkey kids, single mother, it's like here's a bowl of cereal, here's a honey bun, here's chocolate milk, here's 800 grams of sugar. Now go wonder why I'm always hyper and I'm always out of my chair and I can't sit down. I'm a disruptive one. I can't, I'm never in my chair. It's just, all those things. And so I think that we know now. So then the conversation is so broad. We obviously can't
It's
cover everything,
it's
but
so broad and it goes everywhere. But before you leave your mom, and I know your mom, and I know that, and I know you, so I know you were raised with like feminine energy, right? Here you are being a dad. Here you are helping men with all of these subjects, all of these things, learning as you go, being an example as you go. What you always preach, consistency. Did you have a strong male role model in your life?
it wasn't until I was 8, which now those are like your informative like building blocks and what's going to really solidify you as I don't want to say a man, but just really who you are happens at 2, 3, 4, 6. So by the time I'm 8, I'm reintroduced to a stepfather who raised me, who I call my dad because it's because I love him. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
The appreciation that I have for him that I didn't have when I first met him, the hell that I put him through when he was just for another man to step in and be a father is like probably one of the most admirablest things
I
anybody
agree.
could ever do and
I
take on
agree.
someone else's is like that's the people that should be celebrated. That's
Yes.
the people that should be Instagrammed and have all these things and all
Yes.
these endorsements and all making all those men that do and mothers and the
Yes.
single mothers that try to hold
Yes.
it all together. Those are the people that should be promulgated and should be copied and should be revered. Um, so to your question was 8, and my mom, my aunt, I was raised by 3 women, strong-willed. My mom's mom is just straight from Scotland off the boat, like strong-willed, and my aunt, my mom, so that it makes no wonder, and it's not an excuse, but I had so much you lived with me, how I had just had so much feminine energy because I was raised around feminine energy. And in return, I looked at it now and done in therapy. It's like that feminine energy I hated. So I
Uh-huh.
wanted to be a drug dealer. I wanted to be a gangster. I wanted to be tough. That
Going to
was
be
one of the
hard.
masks that I wore of, hey, I need you to see me like this. I need to wear this mask of this, just
Yeah.
it's a false identity. I walked around with all kinds. And I'm not saying I still don't. It's just it was one of those things in therapy that
Yeah.
really helped me a lot and is be like, oh my God. And so now I could see it and it comes up and I could course correct and I could still deal with it because I don't think that just like sobriety, I work on it. I don't sit there. I'm not pining for a drink or for heroin or for anything like that. But it's like, it's something that you just work on, every single day. For me, it's just living congruent and living a life of just trying to not be an asshole some days. Not perfect.
Every time you look at your kids when you go, because I know this for me, but every time you go home and you look at your kids, are you just like reminded, right, of like what it is that you're doing, why you're so consistent, why you keep doing this?
Yeah, my purpose. I mean, it's
Yeah.
I need to be the what I tell with dads, you got to really work on just being the dad you always needed. So I'm just working on being the dad I always needed. I needed that superhero dad. I needed that dad that I can come to where I felt safe, where I felt, secure, where I felt, and I had that later on, but
Mhm.
during those like years right now, my daughters are 6, my son is 8, and when they look at me and they know and they can depend on me and when I say I'm going to be there and a lot of it too is like me having to say sorry to them. A 6-year-old and an
Always.
8-year-old,
Always.
like
Thank you.
but they need to hear that because I
Yes.
never heard that as growing up.
Same.
They never apologized to me.
No.
They never shut up. just do it, just eat it. And like I find myself still doing that. I'm like, oh wait, no, you know what? I'm sorry, Daddy shouldn't have said that to you. I should
Yeah.
that was wrong. You shouldn't talk
Well,
to
we're
me.
from a generation where I think all of us, like nobody was apologizing. Our parents weren't doing the work. They weren't in the therapy. They didn't give a shit, right? They didn't do this stuff. So we're all just like, okay, we're out here. Like we're going to survive. Like, fuck
If
it.
you if you did, you had that one or two kids that one or two kids every couple years that their parents were hippies and they couldn't eat
Yeah.
shit or they couldn't eat fast food, and it was like, what a
What
weirdo.
a weirdo. Now here we are, like making Cal salads for
I'm
our
eating,
kids and being
I'm
like,
eating a
I'm
Big
so sorry.
Mac and a Coke. Yeah, weirdo.
I
But now,
tell my daughter sorry all the time. I tell her I'm sorry all the time. And when you said this, I want dads and women and moms to hear this. Like, I think it's important that even though we're trying to be the parent that we needed when we were that age, and that's the goal, right? We want to be that parent we needed. We want to show up. We want to be consistent. We are human. We fail. And there's a lot of hard places when we fail in this journey as a parent, when we see ourselves slide into habits that we tried to break, when we see ourselves slide into habits that our parents did, it's not a perfect story. So I appreciate you saying, even though you do all these and you're sober and all this, you are human. And I think it's hard, at least for me, if you can speak on this quickly, to get yourself back up, shake it off, and keep going because we're so hard on ourselves if we do fuck up.
well, that's where my self-talk has to be stronger. Um, and it doesn't, because believe me, I'm my harshest critic and I get sit there and
Yeah,
beat the shit out of me. And you hear about it like I speak in a way to myself that I would never speak to anybody else. So why do I do it to myself? And you hear about all these guys and these teachers and these Carolyn misses and things like that. It's like, no, you can't keep cocking yourself. Like you can't beating yourself up because when you say that about yourself, it's just not good because you put in your I'm a loser. I fucked up again. I'm a this. That's why it's hard for a lot of guys to get sober,
yeah.
because they just think they've done so much where they can't go on or they can't turn back,
That's
right?
100%. I think people think I fucked up. It's too much. It's too long. I'm this old. I've done this much. We only have a few minutes left before this stops, and I want to get two questions in, and I want you to share with everybody. First of all, where can everybody come to you for coaching? Where can they find you? What is your social media? How can people reach out to you?
That's dad of dads. That's dad dot or period dot dad period of period dads plural. Dad of dads on
Out of
Instagram.
dads.
I do through everything as Instagram. Dad of dads.
Here's my question that I want to know is what is your message to this next generation of men?
What is my message? Don't break character. Don't break character, but first you have to find character. First you have to find a purpose. You know what I mean? So my message would be, I don't know if it would be a message as just, be the best you that you can be. That's it. You just really be the best you that you can be. And that's just through discipline and through all the things that simple, not simple, but just non-negotiables. It's like when you grow up, like just be true to your word. Like,
Yeah.
if you say you're going to do something, do it. If you say you want to do something, know that you're not going to get it like that. And it's going to take time. I think that's it. Yeah, something
You
like
think?
that. No,
So as a
but it's just
yeah,
that it's such a big, like
it is.
wide. Here's something I learned today, and because I listen to positive things, I'd like to leave with this. So, with your parents, there's three stages, and I heard this from Patrick Bet David that his pastor told him when he was 28. First, you idolize them, then you demonize them, and then you humanize them. So get to the humanization of your parents, the relationship with parents quicker. It'll save you a lot of heartache and a lot of pain and a lot of self-inflicted pain on yourself when you
Yes.
humanize your parents and or now relationships. Humanize them as they're human. You're human. We're all fallible. We all make mistakes and we're all worthy of another chance. I like helping the underdog, so hopefully that
Fuck
wraps.
yes. Fuck yes. Yes, that's exactly. Thank you so much, Drew. I know you could go on with tons of knowledge. That's why people can follow you. They're either going to follow you and be like, this guy, or they're going to follow you and they're going to be like, this guy. And I love what you preach. I love what you show. My biggest thing that my takeaway from like your social media too, and I appreciate it, is consistency, 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 and the discipline that has saved my life. I love being able to watch somebody who is actively showing it and representing that so that all of us remember like every day to wake up, every day to be in it and to bounce back up. And at any fucking age, we can do this.
Yeah,
Okay. At
at
any
any
fucking age.
yeah. You that your age, even people, kids that are getting it a lot. I like that people are getting it a lot. Kids that are, and that's the good thing. There's a lot of downsides to social media, but there's a lot of positive things
Yeah.
when used positively, when used
Yes.
in the right way. You know.
Yes. All right. This is gonna sign us off. So Drew, thank you so much. We did really good. We didn't roast each other. I love you very much.
I
Thank
love
you
you
for
too.
doing this interview.
Thanks for having me, Romy. Bye.
Let me see. Wait, if it ended it. Hang on. Wait, I gotta end, stop
Still
recording.
recording.